I never thought a simple voicemail could shatter everything I believed about my marriage. It was late on a Tuesday evening, and I had just come home from another exhausting day at work. My heels ached, my blouse clung to my skin, and all I wanted was a quiet night with a glass of wine. I set my purse down on the couch, kicked off my shoes, and let the silence of the apartment wrap around me. That's when I saw it, the small red blinking light on our home phone. One new voicemail. I pressed play absent-mindedly, expecting my mom checking in or my boss reminding me of tomorrow's early meeting. Instead, the sound that filled the room nearly made me drop the wine glass in my hand. It was his voice, my husband's voice, low and warm in the way he hadn't spoken to me in months. "Last night was amazing," he murmured, his words tangled with laughter. And then came another voice. A woman's giggle. Soft, playful, intimate. "Can't wait to see you again," she whispered. "Same place tomorrow?" My knees went weak, and I stumbled back onto the couch. My pulse pounded in my ears as the voicemail ended with silence that felt heavier than any scream. I replayed it once, twice, 3 times, hoping I had misheard, praying it was a mistake. But the truth cut through every second of that recording like a knife. It was him. And it wasn't me he was talking to. For a long time I just sat there, staring at the phone, feeling the walls of my world close in. I expected tears to fall, for me to collapse into the heartbreak of betrayal. But instead, something inside me hardened. My chest burned, not with grief, but with a cold, sharp clarity I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't going to confront him, not yet. Confrontation would give him a chance to lie, to twist the story, to make me doubt myself. No. I needed proof. I needed the truth, all of it, laid bare before I made my move. So I stood up, poured the untouched wine down the sink, and pulled my laptop onto the table. I opened a blank document, hands trembling but steady enough to type. I began writing down everything, the date, the voicemail, the woman's words, even the exact time the call came in. Every detail mattered. As the minutes passed, my fear shifted into determination. This wasn't just betrayal. This was war, and I wasn't about to lose without knowing exactly who I was up against. That night, I made myself a promise. I would uncover every secret my husband thought he could hide from me. I would trace every step, every lie, every stolen moment until I had the full picture. And when the time came, he wouldn't see me as the broken wife he could walk over. He would see me as the woman who discovered everything. The next morning, I woke up with a weight on my chest, but not from sadness, from focus. I knew my husband's routine like the back of my hand. He left for work at 7:30 sharp, always with his phone in his right jacket pocket, keys in the left. He thought his habits made him reliable, trustworthy. To me, they were patterns I could use. As he showered, I slipped into the kitchen, pretending to make coffee. I heard his phone buzz on the nightstand. For a second, I froze. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it would give me away. He never left it unlocked, but luck, or maybe fate, was on my side that morning. When I picked it up, the screen lit up, still open from his last scroll. It wasn't a text. It was an address pinned on a map. A hotel. Not far from his office, but tucked away in a part of town where no one would casually run into someone they knew. My throat tightened, but I forced myself to stay calm. I memorized the address, set the phone down exactly as I'd found it, and poured him his coffee as if nothing had happened. When he kissed my cheek goodbye, I almost laughed. The audacity, the casualness of a man who had no idea his carefully built lies were starting to crumble. That evening, I drove to the hotel. My hands clutched the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. I parked across the street, far enough to blend in but close enough to see the entrance. At first, the hours dragged. I questioned myself. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe the voicemail was old. Maybe. And then I saw him. My husband. Walking up the steps of the hotel. He wasn't alone. The woman beside him had long, dark hair and a dress that clung to her body like it was made for her. She laughed at something he said, her hand brushing his arm like they'd done it 100 times before. I ducked lower in my seat, my nails digging into the steering wheel. Every nerve in my body screamed, "Go confront them. Go tear it all apart right now." But I held myself back. No. Not yet. One slip, one emotional outburst, and I'd lose everything I was working toward. Instead, I pulled out my phone and hit record. My camera zoomed in on the two of them entering the hotel. My husband glanced around before stepping inside, as if checking the world wouldn't catch him. Little did he know, I already had. The video saved to my gallery with a cold certainty. It wasn't just his secret anymore. It was my weapon. And as I sat there in the car, my body trembling with fury and adrenaline, I knew this was just the beginning. The following days were a storm inside me. On the surface, I played the role of the doting wife, cooking dinner, asking about his day, smiling when he kissed me goodnight. But underneath, my mind was a battlefield of strategy. I had proof now, but not enough to destroy him the way I wanted. One video of him entering a hotel wouldn't hold up against his lies. He'd find a way to twist it, to make me seem paranoid, jealous, unstable. So I watched. I waited. I became a shadow in his life, invisible but always there. Every time his phone buzzed, every time he came home late with some excuse about traffic or work emergencies, I noted it down. Dates. Times. Patterns. My husband thought he was playing a game of secrecy, but I was already 10 steps ahead. One evening, I pretended to fall asleep early. He crept out of bed around 10 p.m. moving quietly, thinking I was lost in dreams. My heart thudded as I heard him grab his jacket and keys. When the door shut, I slipped out of bed, dressed quickly, and followed him in my car. The city was alive with neon lights, couples laughing on sidewalks, the hum of nightlife. But my focus was razor-sharp on his taillights. He didn't go to the office, or even the hotel this time. Instead, he pulled into a dimly lit bar downtown. A bar I'd never seen him enter before. I parked a few blocks away, slipped inside, and chose a seat in the corner. The music was loud, the air thick with smoke and spilled drinks. But my eyes locked on him immediately. He wasn't alone for long. That same woman from the hotel walked in, her dark hair catching the glow of the neon sign. She went straight to him, smiling like he belonged to her. They didn't hide it here. Not the way they did in the daylight. His hand on her thigh. Her lips brushing his ear. Their laughter mingling like they'd built a world without me in it. Anger boiled inside me, but I forced my face into a mask of calm. I pulled out my phone under the table, recording every stolen touch, every shameless display. When she leaned in and kissed him, right there in the open, I felt my stomach twist, but I didn't look away. I couldn't. This was the evidence I needed. Unfiltered. Undeniable. As I left the bar, my legs shaking, I knew the choice before me wasn't whether he was guilty. I knew that already. The choice was how I would end it, and whether I'd burn everything to the ground with him. Part 4. I woke up that morning with a plan so clear it felt like a map etched into my skull. I wasn't going to fly blind anymore. He had stolen pieces of my life in broad daylight, now I would take back control, piece by piece, with patient, quiet precision. First, I secured everything that mattered. Copies of the videos, screenshots of timestamps, receipts tucked into a folder labeled simply evidence. I emailed a duplicate to a new account I created, one he'd never think to check, and mailed another copy to my lawyer friend with a short, factual note, "Hold this. I may need it." I didn't want to be dramatic, I wanted airtight. If this turned into a fight, I would not be the one without proof. Then I watched him. Not like a frantic, shattered woman, but like someone conducting an experiment. I tracked his routine, the places he frequented, the small anomalies, a different cologne on certain nights, the way his watch was always on the wrong wrist after weekends, the tiny lipstick stain on a shirt that he left folded on the chair for an entire day. He was sloppy when he thought he was clever. Sloppy and arrogant. That arrogance gave me an idea. If he was going to be careless, I would bait him. I called in a favor from a coworker I trusted and told a small white lie, that I might be traveling for a work conference next week and would probably be gone for 3 days. The coworker would back me up if he mentioned it to anyone. It was a risk, but it was calculated, an empty calendar entry that would give me a perfect window to test him. The test began on Thursday. I left as if for a real trip, packed a small bag, sent my out-of-office on email for a few hours so my phone wouldn't buzz with work, and drove to a small rental 2 neighborhoods over where no one would see me. From there, I watched him. At first, he moved like a guilty man who feared discovery, furtive glances, quick calls released into pockets, short texts typed with trembling fingers. But the second night he relaxed, he believed me gone, believed the house empty, and his behavior changed. Confident, almost celebratory, he met her at the restaurant downtown. A place I'd marked earlier. I filmed them as they laughed, clinked glasses, and leaned in close. Then, as planned, he walked her to a townhome a few blocks away, one that wasn't his office, wasn't a hotel, but a place with a private entrance and the kind of anonymity he favored. I stayed until the late hours, heart pounding with a complicated mix of vindication and a hollow ache. When he returned home at 2 a.m. he moved slower, more careful now that the veil of secrecy had become second nature again. He walked through the door like a man who has rehearsed 1,000 apologies. I let him pass. I let him go to bed. I wanted him to think nothing had changed. But I couldn't let the power tilt back to him. The next morning I calmly sat him down at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and the look of someone who had slept well and made up her mind. He tried his usual charm, soft hands, urgent eyes, but I didn't bite. Instead, I laid a single printed photo on the table, him kissing her on the sidewalk, late night, their faces close, a street lamp haloing them. No accusations, no tears. Just the image. He swallowed. For the first time I saw real fear, not the fake guilt he'd tossed around before, but the recognition that the game he'd been playing was over. He asked if we could talk privately. I told him we would, but not on his terms. I told him I wanted honesty, and I wanted it now. He started to speak, stammering, trying to string together familiar excuses. But before he could get anywhere, my phone buzzed with a message from the rental company, an automated confirmation for a single-night booking in his name at a different property he'd used before. He froze, eyes flicking between the phone, the photo, and me. That's when I realized how far this had gone. He wasn't just cheating, he had systems, backups, places he thought were untraceable. He had a life built in parallels, and I'd only uncovered the surface. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. My voice was steady as I said, "This ends today. You can tell me everything, or I can hand this folder to people who will make sure everyone knows." His face crumpled, 1,000 words trying to spill out at once. But before he could, the front door chimed, 2 quick knocks, the kind that belong to someone who knows exactly when someone will answer. My stomach dropped. The sound meant one thing, she was still involved, and someone who knows our rhythms had just come calling. I froze in place, the sound of those knocks slicing through the tension like a blade. He went pale, his eyes darting to the door, then back to me. I could see it all over his face, he knew exactly who it was. "Don't answer," I whispered, my voice sharp but low. But he was already halfway up, panic in his movements, like a man trying to cover a crime too late. My body moved before my brain caught up. I stood, blocking his path. "Sit down," I ordered. And for the first time in years, he obeyed. The knocking came again, louder this time. A woman's voice followed, muffled but unmistakably hers. "It's me. Open up." My pulse pounded so hard I thought my ribs might crack. My husband buried his face in his hands, muttering something under his breath. Regret? Fear? I couldn't tell. I walked to the door, my hand hovering over the knob. Part of me wanted to throw it open, drag her inside, and watch their little fantasy world collapse in real time. But another part of me, colder, sharper, wanted to let her stand out there, knocking like a fool, while I held all the power. I turned back to him. His eyes were pleading now, silent desperation spilling out in the way only a man caught without escape can show. "This is what you brought into our home," I said quietly. "This is the mess you made. The knocking stopped. Silence. Then the faint sound of footsteps retreating. I let it hang there, heavy between us. Finally, I leaned across the table, close enough that he couldn't look anywhere but at me. "You're going to tell me everything," I said, voice steady, "or I'll make sure your entire world knows who you really are." For the first time since that voicemail, he broke. The mask shattered, and the truth started pouring out, names, places, lies stacked on lies. It was worse than I imagined. But as he confessed, I realized something unexpected. I wasn't broken anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was free. By the time he finished, the sun had shifted, casting long shadows across the kitchen. And in that quiet, I understood the choice was mine now. To leave, to stay, to burn it all down or walk away untouched. He thought his betrayal had destroyed me, but what he didn't know was this: it had rebuilt me into someone stronger, colder, and far more dangerous than the woman he thought he could fool. And as I looked at him, trembling in his own home, I almost smiled. Because for the first time, he was the one afraid of me.